Canadian blues artist that you've probably been hearing of since 2010, since that's when his first album came out. He followed it up in 2013 with the second one. The third one it was Monarch, and the fourth one, which is this fabulous album, is Morningstar. Chris, thank you for making yourself available.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Yannick. Great.
So, from what I read, the album Morningstar started in 2021.
Yeah, actually, we started production in 2020,
Okay.
summer of 2020. Yeah, we got a lot of the main sort of foundational tracks done in the summer of 20. In a couple weeks when things opened up briefly. Everything was shut down, and then it opened up for 2 weeks, and then we went in and got something, and then it shut down again. So then we had to reassess how to get it done. But yeah, it took a while because of the closures and COVID issues going on.
So did you have to resort to long distance digitization between party members for the album, or was it just getting
in
the
the room? All the drums, bass, all the everything was done in the room, like the foundational stuff for the tracks. And then
Okay.
I did some guitars then, but I did a lot of guitars after the fact, like lead guitars.
Okay.
And we kind of built on top of it afterwards. So it was kind of nice because we had, it was definitely don't want to ever take that long to do an album again. And under those conditions, it was just insane. But on the other side, we benefited from maybe taking our time with things and reassessing songs as we went along and then adding new things in. So it's a bit atypical, but we took advantage of the time that we had.
Okay. By the way, folks, if you hear a meow, it's Chris's own cat meowing his approval.
I asked him to be quiet, but he's not. And you know what his name is? His name's Mouse. So,
Mouse?
Yeah. My kids named him Mouse. I think they were just wanting to be sort of ironic that day.
That's okay. I called mine Smurf. So coming back to the album, I noticed that you had some pretty interesting names that actually assisted you in doing it. Allison Young as one of them, who, when I went and checked her out to find out who she was, what she was doing, started off as a classical flute player and then moved on to sax and using the flute as well in your album at the very least. She's using that, and she's using her vocals as a backing vocalist, I think.
Yeah. She Allison she arranged a couple of the tunes, and Richard Underhill arranged a couple of the tunes. We kind of put them all
Richard
together, and Allison did incredible work. And there were a few other horn players in there. The flute player was actually Rob Christian, so Toronto jazz guy. But yeah, no, Allison does know how to play flute as well, but she's so busy that couldn't get her for flute on this one.
Oh, well, I mean, at least you had a flute, which actually enhanced the tracks that it was on. And I noticed that you were using a grand piano as well in some of the tunes.
Yeah, that's right. We recorded at a studio a lot of folks in the blues community are probably aware of, at least in Toronto, and that's the Canterbury Studios, Jeremy Darby's studio, and he's got just incredible gear and he's got a beautiful grand piano in there. And yeah, we were able to put down some nice grand piano on a few things, and even run the grand piano through a Leslie speaker, which you'd normally associate with a Hammond organ, for some of the effects on kind of a Pink Floyd-y type effect.
Normally. Now you were also, the first track that I actually managed to listen to was a single that came out, Waves of Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do a double take because I've seen Jericho Singleton doing his own stuff on YouTube through either events. I don't think he's been on the blues cruise yet, but when I saw that, and I saw that you were doing with Paul Delorier as well.
Yeah.
Paul actually has roots tied to New Brunswick, which is a fun thing. He's also a father like yourself.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing throughout the whole album, there's two tracks that actually caught my attention, and I couldn't stop chuckling. The greatest of all of Americans, I think is what it's
The
called.
American, yeah.
You had two parts, part one and part two. Is there any particular reason why you called them with that
Well,
particular title?
yeah, I guess because the one that's the longer one, the 6 minute one, it's kind of a real sort of moody late 80s, kind of inspired by like Daniel Lanois, Robbie Robertson, even some late 80s Peter Gabriel or Clapton, like that kind of vibe. That one is the main song. We called it part two because I wanted to do a little really moody instrumental intro leading into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to have them together. So I just said, let's call the main song part two, you know. Very, I think I might have been listening to a lot of Pink Floyd. They've got all those parts to their songs. I don't know. There's the two are combined, but you know, I wanted to have them in order. So the little instrumental is part one. It's only a minute and a half, and then
Oh, I mean, it's pleasurable minutes. That's the whole feeling of it when I finished
yeah.
listening to it. Um, Now, I do know that some circles have actually said that you're Bonama-esque in feeling, but you're a little bit better than Joe when it comes to your vocals. Guitar-wise, you're on par, if not slightly more than what he does. But then again, he's had so much exposure that a lot of his stuff is just piled in layers and layers and layers. Yours is fun for many reasons. The one thing that I like is one, you're Canadian, which is important because as it comes to blues in Canada, a lot of the artists uh, are having issues trying to find local acceptance, and they get better acceptance if they get out into Europe and UK and a whole bunch of Eastern countries. Have you
Yeah.
had any issues with that yourself?
You mean going like getting abroad or playing more in the
Uh,
States? Just
more local, well, in Canada versus
yeah.
US or abroad.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. First, let me say thank you uh, for saying that I'm as good as Bonamassa. I don't think I am, but that's appreciate that. Um, yeah, he's an incredible artist, and he's been very supportive of this new music as well.
Mm,
Putting the few of the songs on his playlist, so that was really cool to see that. But
yeah.
on this idea of trying to go to the States, yeah, I mean. I live in Toronto, but there's only so many times you can play in Toronto, right? Lately because I have kids, I mean, and my time is more limited, and I really want to get the most out of my playing. I do a lot of practicing at home, and then I
Mhm.
set up tours throughout the year. And yeah, we play in Canada, in Toronto when opportunities arise. But you aren't not going to catch me at the sort of at Grossman's on the weekend because it's not part of the strategy. You gotta I want to do more in the States, and that is a big part of it. Just because it's there's no isolating any country. It's just do them all if you can. Given the time you have. We're going to the UK in next week. I'm going to be doing a tour in Britain for about 10 days, just a little short one. Um,
Nice.
and being a dad, I don't tour like guys like Bonamassa. I'm not unencumbered in that sense. I can't, and I choose not to do that kind of thing. I set them up, place them throughout the year, and try and get opportunities. But I love playing, so it's, I'll play here if opportunities come up. But it's become a lot harder to get to mount the band for the stage, in the sense that, my band's bigger, and yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. The Toronto club is only going to pay you a certain amount,
True.
and that's not sustainable. So you have to go elsewhere. There's no turning the back on anyone or anything like that. It's just you're just trying to expand, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to say no, but you don't want to say yes to be. It's not a matter of money. It's a matter of actually making sure that all basic needs are met by getting your
Yeah,
envelope for the gig. I do know that a lot of bands that start off, a lot of musicians tend to go to smaller gigs to try to get their name out and try to network and to try to go the extra steps to actually become um, feasible for a possible tour, going out west, going
yeah,
out east, staying in Canada, going to another country. In certain cases, you might attract a manager or touring manager that would like to book you and has a few places that they would like to see you do your own stuff.
yeah,
Here in Moncton, we used to have the Plan B. Now we lost that. It became a high class replacement, but that's no longer what it was. We've got uh, a few places that we try to have people come into it. The Avenir Center, for one, is one of the biggest locations currently that we have big acts coming out for comedy, music, you name it. It's there. Michael Bublé, for example, came to Moncton about 2 days ago. So that said, uh, the fact that you're planning to make it um, to the UK in this particular instance, and you're booking it for a week, and you probably have gigs lined up, possibly a rest day, and making sure that you're going to be in touch probably with your family, making sure they're okay and letting them know that
yeah,
you're fine and in health and everything's going fine.
yeah.
So, um, apart from yourself, are you bringing anybody from the album with you to the UK?
Well, in a sense, yes. The band that I'm going to be playing with they're all based there. So I don't have to fly over my band, which saves money. And the UK, that a lot of artists are canceling their tours right now, in the UK especially. And so, fortunately, we've got some support from the Canada Council for the Arts for this one. I thank
Well,
them for
that's
that.
good.
Yeah, and I think without their support, it wouldn't have made sense to go. I would have had to cancel. Things are just not. It's tough. It's tough to get the revenue, right? And
Mm.
I'm still building. It's not like I'm selling out places. I'm still building. Even after all these years, I'm still, just doing chipping away, trying to build, and develop more fan base. But um, I have one of the guys over there is Ben Fisher, who's a co-writer, who's been a co-writer on all my records except the first one, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's put together the band over there, and
Nice.
we're gonna be able to rehearse for a couple days before we start playing, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it's that sense of like they're my friend, get to hang out with some familiar, or at least one familiar face, or there's another guy that's a friend of mine over there, the drummer that toured with me last time over there. So plus a couple new guys. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. But I
We
wouldn't have
can.
been able to do it I'd love to bring. It's nice if you can bring your whole band, and if someone's gonna pay you, or you get the grant and you take your whole band and they're hot and they've just played a bunch of shows, and you get on a plane and then you don't have to worry about it. You get over there. That's ideal. But that's not, it's either cancel it or go with what you can, right?
Yeah, a lot of artists tend to be more minimalistic in regards to doing it.
Yeah.
They do well. In your case, most of your bandmates are going to be over in the UK already, which is a boon in regards to the venture that you're going on. But in some cases, it's just maybe like one or two people that usually travel, and then they try to find replacements that they can work with, and then they do quick rehearsal, and then they go on stage. That's
Yeah.
usually the whole gist of it. Now for the album, who chose the name Morningstar?
I did in the end. It's an interesting story. That title didn't come out until the very end. Originally, I didn't have a title when I started. I just called it Four, the Roman numerals. I wasn't gonna go with that. That's too Led Zeppelin ripoff. But originally I had the idea was to call the album Community.
Okay.
In the sense that a lot of these songs were about the importance of reconnecting and starting over and the importance of people, but I didn't feel like I could pull that off and sell it in a way that was like, I didn't feel it was genuine. I thought it might have come across as too almost boring, right? Even though the idea was really powerful. So I'm like, well, what else is it? So there's a line from Thoreau's Walden, the classic line for anyone who's familiar with meditation, mindfulness. The idea that the sun is but a morning star. I think that line ends his book. It's a line that speaks to heightened awareness and new beginnings. And I'm like, well, hey, I started meditating a few years ago. This stuff's really changed my life. Like, let's give it that, and let's just call it Morning Star. And I thought it had a better ring to it, and it was also kind of emblematic of the future looking, kind of not space like, but future, somewhat future looking
Mhm.
for some of the songs, because we take a lot of risks and kind of do whatever we want with a blues bass ingredient, and then just kind of have some fun by mixing genres. So yeah,
Well,
that came about at the end. It came at the very last minute. Like I was like, and I had all my writers, like my main writers, Henry Lees and Ben Fisher, and my producer, and we're like going back and forth, and we're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? I said, screw it, I'm just picking Morningstar, and then we got it.
well,
Yeah.
it fits. It fits for the whole album, and also the fun thing about this is that being able to see from a different point of view as a DJ, seeing you grow up from 2010 to now is just simply amazing. It
Oh,
blows my mind that you've actually done so much in regards to accentuating your talent and making it your own and building and actually getting much better. It's,
thank you.
for the lack of a better word, it's flavorful for the ears.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
It's
That's nice. Thank you.
it's full satisfaction when it comes to it. Now that said, it's a segue for something else. Um, as a musician and then as a dad, you must have other hobbies that you like to enjoy once in a while.
Sure. I'm a big chess player. I love chess because it forces me to think before I act and think about my next move, which is always useful in your life in general. But yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time with the kids and helping them with school and taking them to their appointments, and it's either parenting or music. And I also have my partner is actually Allison Young, who you mentioned earlier. So there's a lot to do. We've got a lot. There's lots of folks that I spend time with, and we have some great things. I mean, I'm a big movie buff, and it mentioned you mentioned mentioning movies. I mean, I kind of envision Morningstar as a film.
Mm. It feels that way actually.
Yeah,
It
it's kind of
actually
weird. But yeah,
it actually does. The whole thing about getting out and doing hobbies is trying to have a work-life balance when it comes to having a
yeah,
family and
yeah,
doing the one thing that you enjoy doing. The fact that you're partnered in life with Allison Young is it's a double token in regards to making that happen.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Now, the last question I have is one I've been asking people. It's really off the beaten path. But what's your favorite dish?
My favorite dish, like food
Mhm.
dish.
Food dish.
Um, I think it would be it'd be a toss up between like butter chicken or chicken wings if I'm feeling like I need some junk food, you know. Um, that is a great question. I haven't been out for dinner in so long because you don't really go out for dinner. No, my favorite dish is the extra French fries that my kids don't eat at Eastside Marion. Those are fantastic. Uh,
Yeah.
that's how I've been consuming all my fries for the last 10 years. But no, actually, I don't know. That's a great question. Since the pandemic, I haven't been sort of taking in Toronto's restaurant scene as
But
much as
what
much
do
as
you cook? Do you do any home cooking?
yeah, I do. I guess I do make a lot of like specialty salads, like Greek salads and Caesar salads with all sorts of toppings. I really enjoy that process. You know, it
Okay.
just yeah. I'm very boring on the food front. I could have come up with some fake. You know, I'm actually Googling a website right now to come up with a fancy name for a pasta dish. But no, it's funny. I used to be so like into food, like foodie guy.
Yeah,
I'll try that.
the pandemic changed
Passion.
things so much. The weird thing about the whole thing in the last 2 years is that a lot of takeout restaurants, a lot of them actually did very well because a lot of it was takeout and a lot of it was being delivered
Yeah.
or being picked up curbside. Here we tried to improvise with doing our groceries and using building recipes based on what we know how to make.
Yeah.
Myself, um, it's a very hearty stew dish that comes from my grandmother,
Oh yeah.
and basically it's potatoes,
Uh,
turnip, carrots, and stew cube beef
ooh.
or any cut of beef, as long as you cut it so that it's
Yeah.
bite sized in the spoon. And then you kind of overcook it so that the potatoes start to dissolve into a starch. And then once you're ready, it starts to thicken, and then you just leave it on simmer for or low for the longest period of time. And
Yeah.
I come from North Madawaska, so I have a flatbread that we make. It's called ploy.
Uh-huh.
Basically, it's the best equivalent is buckwheat pancakes, but it's not a pancake. It's actually thinner, and
Yeah.
there's no egg. It's basically it's milk, hot water, a little bit of not cornstarch, but baking powder, and then you just fry it up in the skillet and flip it over for a few seconds, and then you put
That's
it aside or serve it. And typically, it's served with butter. And I take maple syrup. My parents you either maple syrup or molasses, blackstrap
yeah.
molasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can use it for desserts. You can use it for everything, really.
So that oh man, I'm coming to your house for dinner.
I'll send you the recipe.
Yeah, no, do it. It's funny you mentioned your grandmother's recipe. I remember when as a kid, my grandmother, who's passed away about over 20 years ago now, she was of Belarusian background and she used to make all these great like cabbage rolls and the simplest yet most amazing food, a meat stick. Like
Mm,
just pierogies, like it I've been trying to like reclaim. I probably should have answered your question earlier before, but it is something I want to try and reclaim, like go back and figure out some of these recipes, for my own kids. But she only she could make them the way she made them. So
yeah, that's what I had an issue with. I wasn't making it exactly the same way that she was. At first, it started
yeah,
being soupy.
yeah,
But eventually, I discovered that it's more the simmering at low temperatures or at high temperatures and stirring it once in a while so that the potatoes get mixed up. You do need the amount that I make. I have to have almost like a quarter gallon pot, but I don't have something that big. I've got something just a tad smaller than the last time I had to clean my oven. It was a mess. That said, Chris, thank you so much for being
Yeah.
on this interview, and I hope to see you in Moncton one of these days.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, I'd love to get out and what's the festival they have out there, the Harvest one.
Yeah, it's that's in Fredericton. It's close by. It's an hour and a half away.
That would be nice to play that one. I think my agent's
Oh,
doing the whole pitch right now. He's trying to get us what he can for next year. So you never know.
I think you'll be welcomed.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great talking to you.